But anyway, they're from Sweden. This is I've used the term accessible before, very accessible
Oh
CD.
yeah.
It's nine songs, just under 35 minutes, believe it or not. A very short CD. Um, but it's got some great tunes on it. Forged in Iron, Crowned in Steel, which, it's funny because he's singing a Viking metal in the chorus, but it sounds more like German power metal to me.
Yeah.
It's very priest-like. Would make a great anthem, for, an outdoor show. I could totally see that.
Oh yeah. Like a
Uh,
Renaissance fair or Game of Thrones or something.
right, exactly. In fact, that's what it made me think of.
Yeah.
Born for Battle, another one of those anthem feels to it. Frost and Fire has some of the most fabulous guitar play I've heard in a while on it. And that would definitely be a crowd pleaser too. And then the fourth song I really liked on it, Stormbringer. The keyboards are just awesome.
Yeah.
On that. And they are up front. They're a little cheesy, but as we already talked about, I like a little cheese with my metal sometimes. I'm a sucker for it. But this album also had some misses, to me. Master of the Land to me just had a very tired riff. It's like a riff to it that I just, it just didn't seem to really grab me at all. Last One to Fall, Every Day There's a Battle to Fight, just goes nowhere. I mean, it's lost like Magellan on the open seas. And then there's a 2-minute instrumental in there that just doesn't need to be there. Not because not because I don't like instrumentals, I do from time to time, but this one just doesn't. I don't even know why it's there. So, good CD. I'm not going to say it's a great CD, but it does have some great tracks on it. Um, One of the hard things with this band is where do you put them? I actually looked at Encyclopedia Metallum to see how they listed them, and they've got them as a heavy metal and groove, or heavy metal or a doom metal.
Really? I don't get
Yeah,
that.
which
But I
I
do
don't.
get just the straight up heavy metal genre, because that's what it is.
It is, no, you're right. So I gave it a solid 7 out of 10.
Okay. Well, let me give you my thoughts on it as well. And I don't think we're too far apart on a couple of things. And I know what I'm about to say here is hypocritical, because if you listen to last episode, I ripped on 6 a.m. last week for having, cheesy, cliche lyrics. And Grand Magus on Sword Songs has them all over the freaking place. And I don't care. So I'm calling myself out as a hypocrite. I don't give a crap. I mean, for example, you mentioned this track also, which is one of my favorites on the album, Forged in Iron, Crown and Steel. But here's the chorus. I just want to read the words for you so I can at least be consistent with, we've done this with Mystic Prophecy. We've done it with 6 a.m. We're going to do it with Grand Magus. But here's the chorus to this song, and yet I don't have any problem with it because it freaking rules. Here it is. Viking metal, bring you to your knees. Viking metal, a warrior's decree. Viking metal, death is victory. Forged in iron, crowned in steel. Viking metal! It's so awfully cheesy. And again, it freaking rules. And, I mean, if we're being honest, the Kings of Metal by Manowar is one of the cheesiest songs of all time, and yet it rules as well. So, to me, Forged in Iron, Crown and Steel is a great track. Born for Battle's a great track. I actually disagree with you. I think Last One to Fall is one of my favorites on the album, which is weird because you thought it was one of their misses. But In for the Kill, solid track as well, in my opinion. And Freya's Choice, which we just played, which kicks off the album and does a really good job, really catchy, has some really good hooks to it. And vocally, Jan Kristofferson actually sounds a lot like Jorn Landa in many different ways. I get a lot of Jorn from him. Very catchy, like sing-along choruses, like throughout the entire album. And like you were saying, Biv, as far as genre is concerned, we obsess ourselves over this stuff. Very traditional heavy metal sound, okay? And if you don't mind cheese with your metal, which Biv and I don't, Grand Magus and Sword Songs is right up your alley. We're close on score, though, because it's not a perfect album, but it's good. And there's a handful of tracks, to use your verbiage, that will be part of my rotation moving forward. So I actually give Sword Song 7.5 out of 10. But if you don't mind a little cheese and a little Viking metal, check out Grand Magus. You won't regret that at all.
Okay, that was Blood Red Sky from Black Fate, Deliverance of Souls. It is a 2009 re-release. Now that Black Fate is on Alterium Records, it has been remastered. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. But the reason, normally, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, Jason, I think this is the first time we've ever reviewed a re-release. I don't normally like to do that, but I really feel like this is a band that people don't know about, that they should know about. They're not that well known, and they should be. So, at any rate, I've got my thoughts on it. But Jason, what was your thoughts on this CD as a whole?
Well, I agree that we've never reviewed a re-release before, but this one especially makes sense for a couple of reasons. A, they're on a new label. B, at least according to the band, this is a much better sounding version of Deliverance of Souls. So if you're new to the band, like I am actually, in fact, have you ever had the kind of band, and I'm sure, Biv, you've fallen into this category, many of you listen to the show as well, you ever have a band that somebody tells you, dude, you need to check these guys out? And it's not as if you don't want to, but you're listening to other stuff at the moment, and you just don't want to try to get into another album right now because you're really liking the one you're listening to. It's kind of like how I am with video games sometimes, and I know a lot of people are this way too. I don't want to buy a new game that just came out maybe this week because I'm really addicted to this game and I want to beat it, and if I, buy this new one, then I'll feel I have to split my time between them, so I'll just deal with the new one later. It's kind of how I feel sometimes when it comes to metal, and I put Black Fate in this category because that friend is Biv, and Black Fate is that band. I remember him often telling me, dude, you need to check out Between Visions and Lies. And I listened to a track or two, and then I just kind of right back into the stuff I was listening to, so I never really dove into it. And I knew Biv was going to review their latest album, Deliverance of Soul, when it came out, because he's a Black Fate fan. And I was excited to check it out because it's the first, let's call it my own personal BBB situation, Biv's best band. For me, this would be them, because I've never really got into their stuff, even though Biv's been like, dude, you need to check these guys out. So, not knowing a lot about them, I kind of thought it was a new album until I went back and going, oh, this is a re-release. But new to me, so, probably new to a lot of you as well. But to me, it's a mixed album. Vocally, it's awesome. I hope I'm saying his name right, but Vasilis Georgiou, who is the vocalist, really good singer. And, just a couple tracks here. The first track is an intro. The first track of actual music is Dying Freedom, and it's decent. A mid-tempo rocker. Nothing I would shut off, but nothing memorable. And you're going to see kind of a theme here in my thoughts on this album. Blood Red Sky and Angry Silent Scream are the next two tracks. And here's what's weird about those songs. The first 40 seconds of both songs are great and have build-up. So it makes you seem as if it's going to build up into this just badass song, and it doesn't. Again, it's not bad. It's just not memorable either. And the Conscience of the Brave and Reign of Paradise are the next, and kind of the same thing. Nothing bad, but nothing I'm going to say, dude, check these guys out. Later on in the album, you got Thorn in My Hand, which is a track that kind of starts out with a Maiden riff, but just falls kind of flat. It's, Inner Warning of My Soul had a Blood Red Sky and Angry Silent Scream build up, but then again turns into a mid-tempo rocker, which is good but not great. And the last track, Fallen, is a lot like the rest. If the theme, if you haven't figured it out yet for me on this album, is not bad, it's good, but not memorable. Now, I say this, I went back and listened to Between Visions and Lies, which is the album that Biv was like, dude, you got to check these guys out. And it's definitely better. More catchy, and to be honest, I listened to it one time, Between Visions and Lies, unlike this album, which I listened to many times. And I can tell you have a handful of songs that stood out to me on Between Visions and Lies, like, In Your Eyes and Weight of the World and Line in the Sand. Those are all better tracks than anything on Deliverance of Soul, yet I only listened to the album one time. So if that gives you any indication of what I thought of the album, I thought it was meh. It's not bad. It's just not something that I would find very memorable. That's my thoughts. Biv, what were yours?
So what did you give it?
I gave it a 6.5 out of 10.
Okay. All right. Well, there's a few things that I want to go over that you touched on. Like I said, this is a 2009 re-release,
Right.
and uh, their their follow-up album to that, Between Visions and Lies, is that correct?
Yes.
That came out 5 years later. So,
No, it did. Yeah. I mean, Between Visions
so
and Lies, let me be clear, was out in 2014. So it's their most recent new stuff.
Right, exactly. So there's a lot of, 5 years is a long time for a band to grow.
It is. That's fair.
So the second thing is they went through some lineup changes too. If you look at the lineup on this CD, Deliverance of Souls, Between Visions and Lies, there's a considerable change. So some of the core members, did stick around, but this actually was the first CD with Basilisk Georgia on vocals for them, who does sound at times, and I don't know if it's intentional or not, but kind of a Roy Khan in his early career.
Yeah, early Camelot stuff.
Well, see, I went back further. To me, he sounds more like on the Conception record.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, at any rate, my thoughts are a little different than yours, though. I really liked Dying Freedom. I love the drums, and I'm a sucker for Spanish guitar. Anytime you can throw Spanish guitar into a metal song, I'm there. Blood Red Sky, I love the riff. It kind of has some bluesy feel to it at times. Angry Silent Scream is, under 4 minutes, but it's got a couple of changes of pace in there. Yeah. And for such a short song, it delivers quite a bit. So, one that I listened to a few times, but, when I first heard it, I wasn't sold on it. But If the Silence Was Gray, very Conception-like. It's like one of those Conception ballads off of the Flow record. So, Thorn in My Hand, you had mentioned, that kind of fell flat for you. To me,
no, it started out, like I said, it was a very Maiden-esque beginning of the song. I'm like, okay, I can dig this.
Right. And
they did that so many times on this album with like riffs in the beginning where you're like, all right, cool, do your thing, Black Fate, there you go. And then it just turns into this mid-tempo verse, and you're like, oh, dude, now why are you going to do that? That's kind of what I got through a lot of the album.
I would have been upset about this on this particular song, except for the fact that it goes into a keyboard, keyboard style, very, very reminiscent of Kevin Moore on Images and Words, way back in '92. Dream Theater's second album. So I really enjoyed it. Inner Warning of My Soul, you'd also mentioned, kind of has a crunchy riff that I really like. And then it's kind of got this rap-esque kind of feel to it, but it's done in a kind of a cool way. So, now I had mentioned earlier, that we were going to talk more about the production on this, the remastering, if you will. Now, I think it's better than the original. There's no question about that. But it's still sloppy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just the original recordings were bad. I don't know if I don't know.
It's funny you say that because listening to it as a remastered album went, huh?
Yeah.
Like I honestly, I listened to it and to your point, and I will echo what you said on the last episode, and I agree that a lot of listeners should do this. Listen to an album through speakers and then listen to it again through headphones, and you'll pick up on different things. And I listened to it the first time through speakers, and it sounded bad, and I'm like, is that me? I mean, either I have a really bad, copy of this, or what the hell? Like, this doesn't sound good. And then I listened to it through headphones, and it was slightly better, but it was still messy. So I didn't put that down as part of my notes and things to talk about on this review. But you're exactly right, dude. You're spot on. Yeah, it's not perfect by any means.